Hey guys, real quick before we hop into this episode, this is such a good one. So super fascinating. And Amber, our guest, is going to give you all kinds of interesting information. We have in the show notes just compiled some additional resources if you want to learn more, if you want to dig into this topic more. Kate and I certainly do.
Yeah.
So check the show notes if you want to learn more about some of the stuff that Amber is about to tell you about, because boy, we just wrapped up recording. This is such a good one. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, friends.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. As always, I am joined by the epically brilliant and delightful Kate Sichars. Hello, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. And Kate and I have the pleasure of being joined by the epically wonderful copywriter, epically wonderful person, and kind of, I think you've become resident AI guru, Amber Smith. Hello, Amber. Welcome back.
Hi, Nikki and Kate. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me back. I'm very excited to talk about today's topic.
Oh, we are excited as well. We got great feedback from our first episode. People saying, "Oh my gosh, goodness, that was so helpful. Please bring Amber back." So, hey, look, you guys ask, we
Ask
make it
and we
happen.
deliver.
Yeah, or
Exactly.
basically, you ask and then we beg Amber to come back. And so,
No begging
like,
required.
I can fit you in. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Yes. Today, I think one of the things that we really want to dig into is something that we've seen coming up a lot in Facebook group, people just asking, and not just our Facebook group, but kind of society in general, but digging into the ethics of AI from a couple of different angles. The environmental impact, the impact of AI on education and really just literacy in the world, especially thinking in terms of the copywriting perspective. Maybe the best place to start is when we say ethics of AI, what does that kind of bring up for you, Amber? What are you hearing people talking about? What are the big concerns that you're hearing among copywriters, but also among clients and companies?
Yeah, it's really similar conversations around those concerns. I would say environmental is a really big one. And then plagiarism. Am I plagiarizing? Am I using content from other creators and copywriters who aren't being compensated? Yes. The answer is yes. But there's just so much nuance to that. So when anyone asks me, like, what can I do to improve my energy use, for example, around AI? I like to tell them that really the best thing you can do is just keep using AI. And that way
Interesting.
you are educating yourself, number one, you're entering yourself into the conversation, number two. And number three, as I've really dug into it, you might be using less energy using AI, which is really fascinating because we can talk about all the numbers, of water use and power use across the grid. But in my research, I really found that, say it takes us a full day to outline a blog post and we get that article started. We just spent 8 hours at the computer. It involved a lot of snacks. It involved a lot of breaks. It involved so much consumption when AI could have actually done that blog outline in seconds. So it's really interesting. It's a balanced conversation. Of course, you have the tech bros saying it's a good thing. You're not using that much energy. And then you have the reality. And the reality is it's different all around the world, state to state. One of the beautiful things about AI's energy consumption is it's not local. So you think about your home, you're using local energy. You think about driving your car, those are carbon emissions, all locally. But with AI, the data centers, the evil data centers that we keep hearing about, those can be anywhere. They can be anywhere in the country. They can be anywhere in the world. They can be above ground. They can be underground in the water. They can be, where it's super cold climates. So it's really a fascinating world once you start pulling the curtain back.
Mm-hmm. I think probably speaking on my behalf and maybe other people listening, it's surprising to hear that your response is to use it and use AI more. I think maybe just the standard response is when, something consumes electricity, right? We think of oh, well, you have to turn off the lights when you leave the room because because we're trying to conserve energy. Okay. But it's your description of thinking about it in the bigger picture, in the macro, in terms of all of the energy used, is a really interesting and surprising way of looking at it. So very unexpected response. And this is something I want to like sit with and think about for quite a while, because we're not, to your point, there is the local power usage and then there is the overall power usage. And it's true that when we're thinking about AI uses a lot of water, we're not talking about, unless you are living near a data center or they're considering we're not talking about the actual local water supply near you. But we also do have to think, if we're going to think of the energy consumption globally, we also have to be thinking of the energy conservation globally. Very interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances. I will say, like, if you want to conserve energy, it still uses 10 times less energy to Google something than it does to ask AI. So it's those moments where you have to make the decision, is this a job for AI? Or is this something that I could do quicker as a human? Like, I could sit there and ask it for 30 options for subject lines, or I could just write 2 subject lines. I've been doing this for so long. If I can't write 2 subject lines in under a minute, like, we have a bigger problem than AI.
Exactly. You may want to call a doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that fascinating. You can still Google things, right? Like, you don't have to ask AI. It uses a lot less energy, because AI is trained on these billions of parameters. So to answer any question, it's just really including a lot of weight, but a lot of information. And it's thinking really hard. And sometimes we're asking it to think really hard about things that we don't really need to think that hard about. So that would be one of my tips.
I'm curious if, using AI more, do you feel like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if we know it's not going away, but if we hit a certain threshold, then it's like we have to address the environmental kind of elephant in the room?
Yeah, interestingly enough, the International Energy Agency did a study, and since the dawn of these large language models, which is a few years back, the overall energy use has increased 4%. 4%.
Interesting.
You would think it's like so much more, but in like all of the things that we consume energy, it's really become pretty negligible. So I think I know the reason why you see so much hype around it is because that's a global figure. That's 4% globally, but in the United States, it's more. And it's projected to go up to, the International Energy Agency said, to 50% potentially by the year 2030 of AI consuming energy in the United States. So that's why there's so much discussion about it, really here more than anywhere else. It's a concern with every country that's using AI, right? There was a big splash with DeepSeek, this Chinese large language model, and they claim to be super energy efficient. But again, you pull back the curtain, and it was trained on other large language models. So that's just like skipping, like the biggest part of it. That's where a lot of the energy use is in the training of the large language models versus our actual single prompts every single day. So a lot of ways to look at it, but that's the big kind of watchdog situation in the United States that you keep hearing about and seeing, like, these companies blow up on the stock market because they're investing in AI infrastructure and getting more chips to more people and building more power plants and all of that. So it just depends on where in the world we're talking about.
I feel like I read several months ago that some of these AI companies are trying to become maybe not carbon neutral, but water use neutral or things along those lines. What can you tell us about some of those initiatives?
Yeah, so the tech industry is already one of the biggest industries that buy carbon emissions, right, to like offset what they're doing. And then as far as the water investment, I've listened to a lot of local podcasts. Like, I know Des Moines, Iowa is a hot topic because that's where a lot of the Microsoft data centers are. So the question is, like, how much water are they using? And in the years that it took to train ChatGPT, the local officials found a 2% increase in water.
Interesting.
And that was it. And when you think about the tax revenue that Microsoft is bringing in, it's a lot more. Microsoft is paying, all tech companies are paying full price. You're paying the exact same amount you are for the water usage. And they're usually building infrastructure and irrigation systems free of charge to the community. So this is the way they like to come off as the good guy. But in reality, yeah, you are using 16 ounces of water for just about every session with ChatGPT. That's a full bottle of water. So that's because you're cooling these massive data centers, right? Like AI is more high powered than any machines we've had in the past. So it's a lot of heat being generated from the servers. So the only way to cool that at the moment is called evaporative cooling, which I thought was a cool word. I'm like, oh, what am I learning so much about this? But essentially, you have to have fresh water to cool these machines off, and it immediately turns it into steam. So it immediately evaporates, which means you cannot really reuse it. They're able to trap a little bit of it, but not a lot. You can't use salt water because that's corrosive to mechanical equipment. So again, it's really the sort of like, where are we talking about? I did find a case where Google was responsible for a 25% increase in water use in a small rural town, but I don't remember. Like, it was very, very much an outlier. So it's pretty rare that you actually see these like huge amounts of water that we're imagining. It's actually really not. It's not really happening like that. So it's not. I don't want to say it's a misnomer. It's a real concern, especially for rural communities. Yeah. But when I think about like the data center capital of the world is Richmond, Virginia. Fascinating, right? They have over 300 data centers.
Wow.
Second closest is Beijing, like by far, not even close to the amount in Richmond, Virginia. And that's because that's where the internet was invented. So it had that early infrastructure, number one, and number two, the proximity to the federal government. Obviously, like, you want to keep the power source close to where the power is. So in my research about Richmond, Virginia, I learned that 20% of the city's energy use is going to AI, but 30% of the city's tax revenue is coming from AI.
Oh, interesting.
It's a whole wide world.
Trade-off.
Yeah, it's a tricky trade-off. It really is. Yes.
Very interesting.
I feel like as you talk to, it sounds like there's also opportunity now for someone to come up. What's another way we can cool this down? Like,
Exactly. That's
not a scientist,
thing.
but
exactly. That's like the tech pros kind of like cooling on that too. They're like, oh, it's going to bring out all of the innovation. We like to say that when Amazon first came onto the scene, people were saying you use a lump of coal for every book you buy online. And it was like, instead of going, to like your local bookstore, you're using all of these resources, the shipping, the internet, the energy, the human expense of all of it. You could have just walked outside and got it from the library. But in reality, that brought on these huge innovations, for better or worse. It was the same with, we think about like social media, all the streaming we do now. You can watch someone on Twitch live stream 24/7. And again, we met those energy demands with innovation, to your point. So that's a really big part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. That there are going to be all kinds of ramifications that we can't possibly plan for and know. And if someone is thinking, okay, this is great, but I still don't like that it's using 16 ounces of water anytime. Are there best practices in terms of the way that we prompt AI or the way that we use it? Like you said, if it's something simple and we think, is this an AI usage?
Don't forget about Google.
Yes. Yeah. Please don't forget Google this holiday season.
They need more money.
They need you. But are there other little things like that? Now I'm thinking like, oh yeah, you leave a room, you turn off the lights. Are there little like habits that we can include to just kind of do our small part and then maybe make us all feel a little bit better about using it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying, like, is it a job for AI? That's number one. Smarter prompting is something that I always say, like, if you can keep it, like, the better you train your channel, the less you have to iterate over and over and over again. So every time I start a new channel about the same topic, then I have to train that channel and give it all the prompts. And if you could just keep that all in one chat, like per project or per client, per brand, whatever, it learns as it goes, and you don't have to keep using that energy to tell it over and over and over again. That's a big one. Let me see what else.
And to the project point, I want it for people that might not. I just recently learned that you can have multiple chats within one project, which was really helpful. Exactly. So that then I'm not, okay, it's taking forever for this one conversation to load. Let me just start, to your point, a new one, and then it's not in the same place. Yeah.
And then, but now you can drag them and drop them
Exactly.
together. Those channels can talk to each other. So every time you're talking to it, it's everything it's learned within that project. And you can upload a lot of files. I do that all the time, like catalogs, copy guidelines, brand guide, all that kind of stuff. You just upload it into your project and it can reference all of that. At the same time, it can reference all your chat history. And that's pretty much what I do these days. That's really all I do is work within those, within projects, unless it's just a one-off question.
Yeah. Yeah. Does the sophistication of the prompt matter at all? Is there any benefit to doing simpler prompts, or versus would more complicated prompts require more energy? Does anybody even know the answer to that question? Hey there, it's Nikki. I wanted to take a very quick minute to make sure that you knew about our free on-demand copywriting training. Now, whether you are brand new to copywriting or you've been doing it for a while, but you just can't seem to hit those income goals, this training is for you. You are going to learn the 3 secrets to landing freelance copywriting work without relying on frustrating job bidding sites like Upwork or Fiverr, or without cold calling strangers. And if you've watched any of the student success stories on this channel, and if you haven't yet, check them out. This is the exact same training that they all started with. And I mean students like Kate K, who is making 6 figures working part-time and retired her husband to help her build her business. Students like Stuart, who replaced his full-time salary, which was a good one, with his freelance income and then some. Stacy, who hit 6 figures in her first 6 months as a freelance copywriter, and Ashley, who landed the in-house copywriting job of her dreams. They all started with this free training, and you can start with this free training too. So sign up right now at freecopywritingtraining.com.
It's not the prompt, it's the topic of the prompt. So there's sort of this dawn of this new term of small language models, because we're working with these large language models. So what you want to do is just use the least amount of thinking on the back end as possible. So I like to, if I'm writing something and I just want a really quick answer from ChatGPT and it's sitting there going, thinking, and you can read how it's thinking and all that stuff. You can just hit skip.
Okay.
Like, I don't need all of that power to go into, like what's the subject line, and just starting to learn how to use smaller machines. Or like the smaller machine you can use, like, because what we do is copywriting, like these were built for space engineers to be able to use. So for us, like, just keep it simple, keep it the smaller machines, like, and you see it's using, like, I think ChatGPT just released 5.1. These are so advanced. We talked about this in the last episode. It could pass the bar exam faster than a human. So really just kind of keep that in mind when you start your new chat. Just be like, all right, let's dumb this down. Like, we don't need Einstein on this one.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, if you upload all of your brand guidelines, you upload all the examples of copy from a client, really, I feel like so much of what I do is pulling pieces from what already exists from my client. I don't need anything beyond that. So that's really, really helpful, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need it searching the internet. I need it searching my client's mini internet almost.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. It's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
I like thinking about it like that. That's interesting. I had a client that we need a quote from this person. And I was just like, okay, this feels like a job for ChatGPT because Google's not coming up with it. Like, I need it to search 400 plus pages of a website. And then it was thinking that I couldn't find anything. Do you want me to search this? And I was like, no, that, like, clients ask for something that doesn't exist. Let's go create it. It would be faster for me to, hey, can you put me in touch with a group of people that would fit this quote need? And to your point, I should have thought of that before I even went to ChatGPT. Like, does it exist? Maybe, but how about,
Darn it, Kate.
How about I just ask them? I know.
You ruined the planet.
I know. Well, when I type, like, hit enter before I'm ready, that's when I feel really like, wait, no, stop, come back.
I know. I've actually learned you can pause it. So I used to do this all the time, and I get so frustrated because then I'm like, oh, I have to do this prompt all over again. And if you hover over your prompt in ChatGPT, it has like a little pencil button, and you can click the pencil and open it and edit your prompt. And then as soon as you hit done editing, it kicks it all over again. I'm like, for me, that was a big game changer.
Yes. Thank you.
So
I
much
needed
time.
that.
Yes.
Because I'd be like clicking on it thing. I'm like, no, stop thinking. Stop thinking.
There's all these little things. I don't know which of the 9,000 YouTube videos I saw that gave me that little tip. There's just so many little things. It's all us just trying to educate people. Like, you guys are on the front lines. I'm on the front lines with our clients talking about these large language models. And a lot of people don't have that, don't have basic information, which is scary when you see all these companies like, we're laying off 14,000 employees. I was like, okay, Amazon, like Tesla tried that. So let me know how those robots go for you. Because think about robotic labor versus human labor. What sounds more expensive? Robots built by MIT or human labor, which unfortunately is still like $7.25 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and also not to get off on tangent, but whenever I hear about like, oh yeah, this company's laying and this company's laying off, having worked at corporations on the inside, sometimes they're like, this is a good opportunity to do a layoff because they're going to blame it on that. We would rather have them blame it on AI than blame it on our low sales numbers. So there's always, whenever there's the direct correlation in the media, this company is laying off this number of people because of AI. You always have to think like that's way too simple to explain why they would lay off that many people. And in fact, it's often just a really good excuse to attach yourself to one story versus the real story that you don't really want to be attached to. So just something to think about, everyone.
Exactly. I mean, for those of us actually using AI, using ChatGPT, like how many jobs do you know that it can really replace right now?
Yeah.
It can give you great advice, but that's it.
Yeah, exactly. To catch anybody up, we have already had the conversation. Check our previous episode with Amber about but I feel like the rest of the world, whereas we were all kind of saying like, it's not going to take your job, I feel like the rest of the world has finally calmed down and they're going, oh yeah, okay. But now we can get to that point of having, as we're doing now, that more sophisticated conversation of, okay, so we're going to be using it. It's not going to take our jobs. We're okay, but we're going to be using it. What is the right way to use it? Which of course then gets into that question of, is it using somebody else's work?
Are we plagiarizing?
Yes, you are. Yeah. Can you talk more about that, Amber? Kind of dig into that topic?
Yes, it is fascinating. So how was ChatGPT created? It's a large language model. So it had to read a ton of text. What text did it read? We don't know. That training data is private at the moment. We have no idea. Several authors have come forward, George R.R. Martin, Sarah Silverman, Victor LaValle, a lot of authors have come forward and say, hey, if I just ask a few basic questions about my book, it will immediately start using my own words, like pretty much plagiarizing, quoting my own work back to me. So they took it to the courts and said, like, we can't prove it because they're not showing their training material. But with just a few easy prompts, we can get it to give us our work back verbatim. So it's obviously using our material. And ChatGPT said, I don't know, maybe they caught themselves up. I love this moment. They said, we trained it on hundreds of thousands of books. Like, we don't even, who knows how much there really are. And prosecutors were like, oh, wait a minute, because there's only one source of free books called Project Gutenberg, and there are only 70,000 titles in that source. So where are these other hundreds of thousands coming from? Yeah. And that was like a real gotcha moment. And the answer is, it sounds really cool, shadow libraries. Like, I want to be a shadow librarian.
Right, like,
that's my Halloween costume for 2026.
Yeah, actually, that's a great
shadow
idea.
librarian.
It sounds cool, but in reality, what it is just these massive databases of pirated books. So the authors are not being compensated for all of that training material. So, I mean, courts are getting involved, right? You're starting to see courts pop up. And there was a case with Anthropic where the judge ruled that it was legal for Anthropic to train Claude, I'm talking about Claude, to train Claude on legally purchased books. So they were able to prove they bought a lot of books.
However, what price? like,
face value.
right. That feels
It feels really
nuts.
cheap for the
Yes.
product that you're
Yeah.
getting.
Yeah.
And
Yes. And how many people it's reaching.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's going to be like a big part of kind of where the courts start to get a little bit involved, is because is that fair use? So far, the courts have ruled mostly in favor of AI. In that Anthropic case, they said that it was illegal if you used shadow libraries, was totally legal. It's totally fine if you use properly purchased books, because that's called fair use. So when you think about a critique of a book in the newspaper, you're allowed to quote the pages from the book. That's not plagiarism. That's fair use. Same with writing a parody. You're allowed to parody Harry Potter. That's fair use. Like the bottom line is that copy being transformed? And that's what makes it fair use. And we know from last episode that the T in ChatGPT stands for transformer. So it is by nature, by definition, transformative, which is how you keep seeing it circumvent this copyright issue over and over again. However, as time goes by, we are starting to see that the marketplace is becoming competitive with AI content versus human creative content. And that's where fair use says no. Like, that's where the buck stops. Literally, the buck stops here. If your work in any way dilutes the marketplace for the artist's work, that's not fair use. Then that is copyright infringement. That is IP infringement. And that's the reality. It's kind of heartbreaking. It's because imagine like you're a new writer or a new young painter or whatever, and overnight your name becomes a hot trending keyword around the world on platforms like Midjourney and DALL-E and ChatGPT, and you see your names up there with like your greatest heroes, like the Picassos, the Poes, whatever it is, and you're flattered for about a second. And then you realize, oh my God, they're taking my look, my words, everything I've developed for decades of my career. And overnight, it's just absolutely devastating, unfortunately, these incomes for these like small artists. Because imagine you go online and you Google yourself, and all of a sudden, your work is not the top result. It's all AI generated content. So now you're competing against the free version of yourself. And we all know it's a capitalist consumerist society. Like, do we want to pay free? Do we want to pay $600, for, a piece of artwork or something? And the reality is the majority are going to want something free. It just, it is what it is. So time hasn't proven that enough for the courts to start siding on the side of artists. But we have a lot of legal tools I've learned in our toolbox.
I feel like I'm having flashbacks to Napster. Like, get Lars from Metallica on the case.
I know.
We know how this ends.
100%. And that's what it is.
Interesting.
That's what it comes down to. Yeah, we take copyright law very seriously in this country. It is in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, written in 1787, is when we identified that Congress has the power to give inventors and artists intellectual property. Because if we didn't have that, why would we create anything? Why would I invent the light bulb if I wasn't going to get any money from it? Why would I illustrate Lion King if I don't have access to merch? Like, there goes Disney's, their whole business model. And then on top of that, imagine like all of a sudden, like Lion King pops up. I'm trying to remember, like Pumbaa and Timon, is that their name?
Yes.
Hakuna Matata. Like, they're like espousing radical political views or something, like a beloved childhood character. So copyright is very much sort of like one of the barriers between us as artists and AI, because you cannot use copyrighted material without infringing upon it. Another fascinating thing I learned, and we can get more into this, I'm sure you have more questions, but you cannot copyright anything made with AI. Nothing made with AI can be copyrighted. And that's huge for us, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything like, is there a limit on like how much is used by, like, I use this one line, or is it like you've got any AI in there? It's
Any AI, if you
Wow.
want to copyright it.
Interesting.
Trademark, totally different. Like we can sit there and brainstorm
Sure.
trademark, taglines, you can trademark that. But no, it's really fascinating for something to be copyrighted. A human has to make it.
Interesting.
It's so cool. So I learned like one of the first cases was a photographer back in like when photography was invented, and the first photographer tried to copyright his image. And he appeared in front of the court and showed them everything it took to create that image. He's dressing the model, he's propping, he's doing the whole atmosphere, everything. It didn't matter that all he had to do was press a button for that art to be created, because he created the moment, he created the need, the desire. However, if that same photographer were to train a monkey to take a picture with that same camera, that would not be copyrightable. That is a real case. That really happened.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating because the court ruled a human, it didn't matter how much the human trained the animal, the human did not create the end result. And it's the same if you're a landscape artist. You can pick out all the flowers based on the season and the arrangement and the colors. You cannot copyright it because the earth created the art, according to the courts. So there's really no shot based on centuries of precedent for machine-created work to be copyrighted.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about how they're perpetually, I don't know, people trying to make money saying, okay, yeah, you can make money writing books with AI and then selling them on Amazon and you're going to make $400 a day and da 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 da. So you wonder if they know that the stuff that they're creating is not copyrightable and that it can then be taken from them and reused. That's so interesting.
It really is. And the artists are learning that. The way I even started following this is there's Colorado Art Fair a few years ago. There was an entry of an AI piece that won. And it's really beautiful. If you get a chance to look it up, it's the Space Opera Theater. The designer imagined it in like a hypnagogic state between dreaming and waking. He was already a designer. So in his mind, he thought of like, how beautiful would it be to see these Victorian women wearing space helmets in space. And he was like, you know what, I can create that image. So he went to Midjourney. He spent, according to him, 80 hours and 600 prompts and to get to the final piece that he entered into the competition. So when he won, obviously there was a ton of backlash. We can talk about that too. But when he tried to get it copyrighted, he was the first person to try to take an AI piece of created art and get it copyrighted. And the courts, he's still appealing it, but it's not looking good. They said you could maybe copyright the prompt, but he doesn't want to tell people what the prompt was. He thinks, should a chef have to reveal their secret ingredient to get their recipe copyrighted? No. But then another artist cleverly retorted, if you ask if you order a cheeseburger and ask them to hold the cheese, does that make you the chef?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
no, sir, you didn't, like the Victorian, the beautiful women, all of that stuff was just built on centuries of other people's art. Like people who dedicated their lives to creating that. And overnight, he can just whip it up. Is that art? Depends on who you ask. Courts say no.
Like I have thoughts in all different
Yes.
directions. I don't have answers. Fascinating.
Yeah. So for
clearly
me,
the courts don't either, but
they don't, where it's
it's new.
day by day, where we're all kind of in this together. But something that no one has said, but that I deduced from all of this research and then like actually nailing it down and confirming this is right. To your point, if we were to write something, it cannot be copyrighted. So when I'm using it to brainstorm a tagline for a company, even naming a product, like what company doesn't want to trademark their like Better Than Sex mascara? Like that's Too Faced, but they want to copyright that. So now all of that is unusable. And I'm just like, I'm looking back at some of my projects thinking like, oh no, what did I do? Like, but at the same time, nothing I've worked on is like entered copyright domain. So we're okay for now. Thank God I know that now. But it's really important because at the end of the day, you're starting a company and it's like, you know, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't need to hire a graphic artist anymore. You can design your own company logo. And all these companies are like, great, we can find our own corporate logo. Happens when you want to get that copyrighted. You have to then hire an artist to trace it, recreate it in Illustrator, and you have to pay the artist in the end anyway. And the reality is the artist was going to come up with a better logo than you prompting Dolly to begin with. So you wasted so much time and so much money. And that's like one of our biggest protectors, I think, is that if a company, if a brand, if anyone wants to copyright anything in the future, it cannot have a trace of AI in it.
That's fascinating. And I think that that's something when we think about, I need to know, first of all, we all need to know our clients' position on AI, what they allow their teams to use. And that I've really seen that vary from company to company.
Yes,
so that's
really does.
very interesting. But so anytime we work with a client, we need to know what their policy is. And I think we tend to think, previous to this conversation, I think of that in terms of, I don't want my company to think I'm scamming them, or my client to think I'm scamming them because I use AI to do a little bit of research, or because AI helped me come up with the second line in this paragraph instead of something along those lines. But it's not just between us and the company anymore. It impacts the actual copy that we deliver and how it goes out into the world. And as copywriters, we've never really had that kind of had to think about those kinds of problems, because for the most part, we do our work, we hand it over to our clients, and then they do what they will with it. And whatever they do with it is their responsibility. Once they accept that copy, it's for better or for worse, it's their problem. And it's just interesting in that. And I don't want to scare anybody. So please, if you're listening or watching, I'm not saying this to scare you, but there is also the ramification of potentially, if you're not aware, if you're stepping outside of your client's AI policy, and that is something that they want to copyright in the future, that may become your problem because you broke their initial AI policy. If you are following their AI policy, that's their problem. But I would, me being the attorney on the call here, I'm not an attorney, to be clear, everybody, not. Although now I kind of wish I'd gotten into intellectual property law. This is a good time.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yes.
Great time to be a copyright lawyer.
Yes.
Not a copywriter. I'm just kidding.
Yes, exactly.
Let me do both.
Both, yes.
Yeah.
A copyright and a copyright.
And then when people confuse us, you can say yes.
Exactly. You don't have to explain it anymore ever again. Another party.
I would love that.
Another happy
All right,
hour.
copy and a copyright.
Oh, you're a lawyer? God.
Yes.
Yes. But we do suddenly have this additional responsibility in terms of ascertaining what that policy is and making sure that we are following it to a T. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I love your take on this too, because I don't know. I feel the same way. I don't know why I felt kind of ashamed. Like I have not been particularly vocal about my use of AI. I mean, I talk about it conversationally with my clients, but it's not in my contracts. It's not a bigger part of the conversation than, do you have guidelines? Like da 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 da. And I ask myself, now that I've changed my mind on my views on that, like I do need to be more transparent, knowing what the legal ramifications could be. Why was I like kind of ashamed? Like, why was I embarrassed?
I think we all were, right?
But like, I thought about it and I was like, this is what I think for me. I was like, I think that the client thinks I'm taking the same amount of money that I was before and going shopping at the mall. I'm just like doing one prompt in AI, and then I'm spending the next 8 hours of the day getting my hair done and buying lipstick and like all of these like frivolous things. And it's like, no, like if anything, I'd spend just about as much time on a given project. You have to edit AI so much, and you have to fact check and proof everything so much. I mean, I'm saving some time, but even that time I'm saving, I'm usually reinvesting, and that's in the project with like just an ability to be more creative and spend more time on a specific creative part of that. So I really had to ask myself, I was like, what am I It's like, I think it's the same with like working from home. Like they think you're, off doing all these things. It's like, no, like actually work a lot harder and I'm a lot more like focused in. So I don't know if you guys feel the same.
I think it's similar. And I think it's the conversation has, from where it started to where it is now, I do think that helps with everything you're saying of like, okay, the clients are a little more educated now on what this is and how it works. And that, to your point, it's not saving you 8 hours of your or 7 hours of your day so that you can spend 1 hour on a project. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it was until people understood it, it was kind of like,
Exactly. It's that evolution of the conversation, right? The
Yeah.
initial like AI is going to take everybody's jobs
Right.
because it can do exactly what you do and maybe it can even do it better. Like no.
Not legally.
Yeah. First of all, not legally, and second of all, just not in general. It's and so I think now that we understand, like, oh no, it's a tool. It's not a replacement. It's not then we can embrace the idea of saying, like, yes, I did use it to do some research. I did when I couldn't think of something. I popped in and said, what's another way to say this? And even the stuff it gave me wasn't usable, but it made me think of other things,
Exactly. Yeah. It's still the same journey for us as creatives who talked about this. Like it's just another tool. So, we're still going to spend most of our time creating.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I love that your reinvest line. I mean, it's so true. You reinvest that time on a project. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, when we're talking plagiarizing and wanting to avoid that, obviously, beyond like fact checking our work, and do you have any other tips in terms of how do we best avoid getting anywhere close to that line?
Right now, you kind of have to rely on the models to do that. So they are trained with these guardrails. You can't say, write a new George R.R. Martin book anymore because of these losses. I think OpenAI launched Sora, which is their like video creator. So I think on Instagram and TikTok, all of a sudden you started seeing all these videos of like Michael Jackson stealing a bucket of chicken and like these like absolutely insane
Oh no,
things.
he really did that. No.
He really did that. And it lasted for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I think, before Sora had to step in, or OpenAI had to step in and rewrite the guardrails and say, like, you can't use this XYZ. You have to be pretty proactive to get them to do that, though. Like, if you are copyrighted, say you are from the, Martin Luther King Foundation, like, you have to request to them that Martin Luther King not be used in any of their content creation. Like, if you can ask Sora to do some insane stuff.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
fully.
no, it's good to know. I think sometimes we don't realize what's going on behind the scenes that is happening, that there are some guardrails, that it's, I mean, I feel like every day things are happening. So it's just keeping up with like, where are we?
Exactly. You can always run your own copy through. There's a ton of free websites for plagiarism and for was a large language model used to write this. Large language models themselves are obviously pretty good at discovering when they were used in crafting something. But when it comes to court cases proving it, like there was a famous New York Times case where the New York Times journalist sued OpenAI because, like I said before, they could just a couple prompts and all of a sudden it is verbatim quoting their work back to them that they were not compensated for. So number one, like courts ruled that was illegal. They didn't address the work that it was trained on, but they say OpenAI now has to be transparent about what they are using. But I read some interesting research articles after that case that kind of like really dove into what was happening. And a couple key takeaways: the bigger the model, the more likely it is to memorize things and quote them back to you verbatim. And in sort of like the opposite world of that, OpenAI was the least likely to plagiarize. So if you, as a writer, want to use the least, the safest bet, ChatGPT far outstrips the other large language models. Claude's Anthropic, a lot of plagiarism. It doesn't take much to get it to plagiarize. But the way they measure the plagiarism in the court, I found was like really fascinating. There's something called the Levenstein distance, which is how many edits does it take someone to do to get to the original text. So if all I have to do is change 2 words and swap this here and there, they measure what's the average after all of that. And another method is like a statistical method of how many strings in the content are verbatim the same. So of course you're going to have words like a, the, cat, dog, but you're not going to have like the black dog ran around the circus unless it was plagiarized. So they're able to like add all the statistics up and see the amount of plagiarism that's being done by these machines. And it's a really fascinating world to dive into. I think we're just lucky that people are diving into it. We're reaping the benefits.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky that you are diving into it on behalf of the copywriting community and beyond, writers and
and graphic designers, really any creative, very important. I had one client, one of our brand managers went rogue, as they do, and wanted to create this fun t-shirt for this new store opening. And they used AI to generate the image of a brand mascot. But that brand mascot, like a real costume, a real person, all human made, we'd never created as a company. We didn't have a digital version of that. So by that employee going and creating a digital version of our copyrighted mascot, but with digital AI, we would then lose the copyright for the digital version of that. So as a company, that put us in a position of either you have to trace it, to give it back to him, or what, of course, we really wind up doing is like, thank you so much for your inspiration. The creative team will take this away and come back to you with our recommendation.
Yeah.
So
don't do that again.
Please never do that again for many, many legal reasons.
Fascinating.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. And we're starting to see, starting to see courts catch up to all of this. So there's no federal legislation. We know that. There's no regulation at the moment of AI, but states are starting to tackle it. Colorado is the first state to have the Colorado Artificial Intelligence Act. And what that does is define the users of AI as either developers or deployers. So OpenAI is the developer of ChatGPT. We are the deployers of ChatGPT. So now there's a sort of just a very generalized, very high level, very high risk associated jobs, but low risk use of, let's say, like ChatGPT to write whatever for your company can become high risk depending on who's using it. So when we say high risk, it's like, is it making consequential decisions? And this is still just for Colorado. So it would be for Colorado residents, is it involved in your health? Was there healthcare AI involved in you making a decision? Are you trying to get a loan and it's taking in your socioeconomic status or disability? Trying to get insurance, but it knows this XYZ about you. It's called bias in the training data. We know that, but now there are legal ramifications to that. So as a deployer, we have to be very careful with how we're using the AI. If a marketing person wants to cut a creative out of the conversation, they don't know nearly the same things we know about all the potholes you can step into with language. When you're the voice of a company, you have to learn, there's experience. There's just so many hoops you have to jump through. There's so many potholes you can step in. And we know our marketing and the rest of, our partners don't know that. So without them having that knowledge that we have of language, of cultural sensitivity, just all of that, now they're creating a high risk situation for the company, whereas before it would have been a low risk situation if someone like us who's properly trained on it had been using it from the beginning. And companies are very much legally accountable for AI. I think we talked about that last time. There was a precedent set that it is a human employee. If you use AI to replace a human job, guess what? It can have human consequences. So good luck.
So fascinating. So fascinating. And it's amazing. I mean, when's the last time we talked? It can't be more than
it's like a
several
handful of
months
months,
ago.
I feel like.
It's
months.
just the developments that have happened between then and now, we're having a totally different kind of conversation, and the things that we now have to take into consideration as we use it, as we see our clients use it, and not that we have to necessarily be the person to police our clients by any means, but we have to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and being fully responsible in our usage. It's just absolutely fascinating.
It really is. There's so much to learn, and there's so much nuance. And that is one of the reasons. Another thing I learned going like chasing this white rabbit, as people are saying lately, is that there is an important legal precedent called the Chevron doctrine or something along those lines. Like, you guys, I'm not a lawyer. I am going to get stuff of this wrong. But I understand the basic gist of the Chevron doctrine that the Supreme Court actually just overturned. The whole point of it was that Congress can make kind of sweeping laws that don't necessarily have like every little nuance defined on how an industry or a state may regulate that law. They leave it open to interpretation because AI, crypto, social media, these things move so much faster than the legal system can keep up with. It is one of the ways that we can stay on top of trends like AI and start to build legislation to protect jobs, to protect copyright infringement. And they overturned that. So now you have to write the law, and the law has to be followed, black and white. So I think we will see a bit of a setback because of that in the regulation of AI, at least in America. And in Europe, they already have legislation. They keep pushing back the go live date. I think it's June 2026 now or something, like when the AI Act becomes enforceable. So we'll see what that looks like. But in the case of the Colorado Act, there's a lot of red tape involved now. Like, if you're a company using AI, you just have to jump through a lot of paperwork. You have to get licenses. Well, not licenses, but you have to get like everything documented. It has to be approved. There's committees, there's paperwork. That's kind of a killer for startups, right? Like, we have an LLC, an S Corp, whatever. It doesn't take there's not a huge barrier to becoming a startup. So now, if you say everyone using AI, which is everyone in the world, now has to follow all of this and document all of this and license all of this and like quarterly, because it's always changing. And it becomes quite the quagmire that America is not really interested in going down that path right now. So it's at the moment, it's like kind of up to the states.
Interesting. Well, the thing that, not to get off on a whole other tangent, because I could really sit down and talk with you about this for hours. But something I always keep thinking about is how long is this going to be free to use?
Yes,
especially
as
I mean, it's just
I think that way about Gmail though. Like,
well,
when's Gmail going to cost me money?
Well, it costs us in all kinds of different ways. I know. Dang it, Kate. No, but the first of all, just the expense to run these LLMs, but then also LLMs,
yep, large
LLMs. Thank you. I was like, is it two L's or two M's? Like large language, that would be two L's. But in terms of the idea of legislation, if it costs that much, whether it's time or actual money to use them, then at a certain point it's going to be impossible for the average person to use. Just so interesting as you play out all of these scenarios, and just absolutely fascinating. And yet again, Amber, you have blown my mind. And I'm already so excited for our next conversation.
Please come back.
What topic should we do next?
I know. It's probably a topic we can't even think about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet. Yeah. But really, Amber, thank you so much for coming back again. Every time we talk with you, it is just absolutely fascinating. And Kate and I are grateful, of course, and I know that everybody listening and watching are going to be grateful as well. And of course, the important question if someone's listening to you is, where can someone find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they soak up your brilliance?
Yeah, of course. Copyamber.com. That's where you will find all my work. Sometimes I post blog articles about all of this. I'll be posting some of the research that we've talked about here today. You can also follow me on Instagram or TikTok, on Threads. It's all at Copyamber. So
Amazing.
I'm so excited.
Oh,
Thank you guys for having me
Oh my goodness.
today.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm not at all joking when I say I cannot wait for our next conversation.
I know. I want to hear what people are asking you, what your
Yes.
students are coming back
Yeah.
with, and what their
Yeah.
learning experiences are.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, that's a great point. So if you've listened and you have questions, wherever if you're watching on YouTube, put in the comments. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever, first of all, leave us a review. But then also either reach out directly or leave questions.
Yep.
Let us know so we can ask Amber and share
Yeah.
your questions with her as well, because she's the pro. Clearly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Yeah.
And with that, we will catch you all in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.